Hey guys, so I have some really important information to share with you about the impeachment and how bad for what the Democrats are doing and how unlawful it is and how lawful it actually is for President Trump to be doing what he's doing. So I made a slideshow. It's probably going to seem like a lot to begin with, but just hang in there with me. And at the end, I'm hoping that this will all make sense to you. So, they're all lying to you. And nobody, not the Republicans, not the Democrats, nobody's telling you what this treaty actually means and what this all entails. There's only been a couple people who have mentioned it, but for some reason they're not using the actual details from the treaty with Ukraine on mutual legal assistance in criminal matters. So I have a few articles highlighted, and each piece from each article that is especially important to what we're talking about right now. So, Article 1 is the scope of the assistance. So basically, the contracting state shall provide mutual assistance in accordance with provisions of this treaty in connection with the investigation, prosecution, and prevention of offenses and in proceedings related to criminal matters. So, number two is assistance shall include, and I'm going to skip to B, B, providing documents, records, and other items. C, locating or identifying persons or items. Down to F, executing searches and seizures. G, assisting in proceedings related to immobilization and forfeiture of assets, restitution, and collection of fines. And H, any other form of assistance not prohibited by the laws of the requested state. So in this instance, the requested state would be Ukraine. The United States is the requesting state, and Ukraine is the requested state. Just to get that clear up front so we know what we're talking about here. So, number 3 of Article 1, assistance shall be provided without regard to whether the conduct that is the subject of the investigation, prosecution, or proceeding in the requesting state would constitute an offense under the laws of the requested state. Article 1.4, this treaty is intended solely for mutual legal assistance between the contracting states. The provisions of this treaty shall not give rise to a right on the part of any private person to obtain, suppress, or exclude any evidence or to impede the execution of a request. Article 2, Central Authorities. We're going to move on to number 2. Article 2.2 is for the United States of America, the central authority shall be the Attorney General or a person designated by the Attorney General. So in this case, and what we don't know is, did Attorney General Barr appoint Rudy Giuliani, Or did he appoint President Trump himself, or did he appoint multiple people to deal with Ukraine? Or is it simply AG Barr? So we don't know the details of that yet. For Ukraine, the central authority shall be the Ministry of Justice and the Office of the Prosecutor General. Under number 3A, number 3, the central authority shall make only such requests as it considers and approves. The central authority for the requesting state shall use its best efforts to ensure that a request is not made where, in its view, and there's only a handful of reasons why the two countries, our country and Ukraine, cannot investigate each other. So these are two of them. So 3A, the offense on which the request is based does not have serious consequences, or B, the extent of the assistance to be requested is disproportionate to the sentence expected upon conviction. Article 2.4, the central authorities shall communicate directly with one another for the purpose of this treaty. Article 3, limitations on assistance. So there's going to be a few things here where, as we'll read, they can agree to provide the assistance or disagree to provide the assistance. 3.1. The central authority of the requested state may deny assistance if, this is going to be 1B, the request relates to a political offense. 2. Before denying assistance pursuant to this article, the central authority of the requested state shall consult with the central authority of the requesting state to consider whether assistance can be given subject to conditions as it deems necessary. If the requesting state accepts assistance subject to these conditions, it shall comply with conditions. Excuse me. Article 4, form and contents of requests. 4.1, a request for assistance shall be in writing, except that the central authority of the requested state may accept a request in another form in urgent situations. And that part is very, very vital. We'll get to that in a little bit. If the request is not in writing, it shall be confirmed in writing within 10 days unless the central authority of the requested state agrees otherwise. The request shall be in the language of the requested state unless otherwise agreed. So Article 4.2, and this is where it lists what the request should include. And I'm just going to kind of run through these a little bit more quickly. The name of the author conducting the investigation, prosecution, or proceeding to which the request relates, description of the nature and subject matter of the investigation, prosecution, or proceeding, and the applicable provisions of law for each offense. A description of the evidence, information, and other assistance sought, and a statement of the purpose for which the evidence, information, or other assistance is sought. For Article 4.3 is to the extent necessary and possible, a request shall also include information on the identity and location of any person from whom evidence is sought, information on the identity and location of a person to be served, that person's relationship to the proceedings, and the manner in which service is to be made. Information on the identity and suspected location of a person or item to be located. A precise description of the place or person to be searched and of the item to be seized. A description of the manner in which any testimony or statement is to be taken and recorded. A description of the testimony or statement sought, which may include a list of questions to be asked of the person, description of any particular procedure to be followed in executing the request, including certifications specified in Articles 8, 9, and 15 of this treaty through completion of the appropriate forms annexed to this treaty. Information as to the expenses related to travel and subsistence of a person asked to appear outside the requested state. Any other information that may be brought to the attention of the requested state to facilitate its execution of the request. Article 5, Execution of Requests. The central authority of the requested state shall promptly execute the request, or, where appropriate, shall transmit it to the authority having jurisdiction to do so. The competent authorities of the requested state shall do everything in their power to execute the request. The competent authorities of the requested state shall have authority to issue subpoenas, search and arrest warrants, or other orders necessary to execute the request. The central authority, Article 5.2, the central authority of the requested state shall present or make arrangements for representation of the interests of the requesting state in the execution in the requested state of a request for assistance. So this is Article 5 continued. If the central authority of the requested state determines that execution of a request would interfere with an ongoing criminal investigation, prosecution, or proceedings in that state, it may postpone execution or make execution subject to conditions determined to be necessary after consultations of the central authority of the requesting state. If the requesting state accepts the assistance subject to the conditions, it shall comply with the conditions. Article 5.6, the central authority of the requested state shall respond to reasonable inquiries by the central authority of the requesting state concerning progress toward execution of the request. 7. The central authority of the requested state shall promptly inform the central authority of the requesting state of the outcome of the execution of the request if the execution of the request is denied, delayed, or postponed The central authority of the requested state shall inform the central authority of the requesting state of the reasons for the denial, delay, or postponement. So, this next section was mentioned in Article 4, and it was 3G. So, it mentions Articles 8, 9, and 15. Article 8 is the testimony or evidence in the requested state. Article 9, official records. Article 15, search and seizure. And below I put Article G, or Article 3G at the bottom. This comes from the Democrats' Adam Schiff's 300-page explanation to why they don't have evidence to impeach President Trump. So, number 6 is the president wanted Ukraine to announce the investigations publicly. So essentially, they're saying that President Trump handpicked representatives to carry out his wishes, conditioned a covenant White House meeting for the Ukrainian president on the public announcement of the investigations to benefit President Trump. So all of these stipulations are actually covered by this treaty, by what we were everything I just read to you. So there are conditions on which the investigation by either the USA or Ukraine can place upon each other when asking for assistance in a legal matter for investigation. Is it beneficial to President Trump? Well, I would say yes, he's an American citizen, so it's beneficial to him and the rest of us that live here. Announcement of the investigation, well, that was the part where in case of an urgent request, an emergency, that the requested state can make their statement publicly, or however the two parties agree to make that like a sealed deal. It's like a different form of a handshake and a signature. So really that's not even a problem, even if he were going to announce it, because I mean, I'm pretty sure President Zelensky knew exactly what he was doing, and we'll get into that just a little bit more. The next part is Sondland and Volker worked closely with Giuliani, that he helped draft up Ukraine's public statement. Cool. So Giuliani was helping them to make the statement that they were going to continue the cooperation with the investigation that is going on, that was reopened in April or March of this year, that Ukraine reopened into Burisma and into Hunter Biden and into Joe Biden. So cool, he was going to make a statement. There's nothing wrong with that. And where they sought to ensure that President Zelensky explicitly used the words Burisma, well, per Article 4, 2A through D, and Article 4, 3, A through I, there are every single one of those bullet points says that you have to give details on who you want to see and who you want to investigate, what are the items you need, they have to be very specific on everything that they need. So that's not a problem either. So Ukrainian officials were very uncomfortable with the provisions of this statement. Ugh. So they had hurt feelings. Well, that's too bad. Please reference Article 4 again. This is everyone was in the loop about the plan for the Ukrainians to deliver a public statement about investigations in exchange for a White House visit. Okay, again, covered by the stipulations, Article 4 permits other forms of requests in emergency situations, but requires a written confirmation within 10 days thereafter unless the central authority of the requested state agrees otherwise. So President Zelensky may very well have said to President Trump, or however the two central authorities in each region agreed to this investigation, President Zelensky may have said, well, I'll just book that interview with CNN that they mention in here a bunch of times, and I'll just announce to the American public that Ukraine is going to continue to cooperate with the United States in order to seek out corruption in Ukraine, which is also corruption in the United States. The next part says that Ambassador Volker responded, but that first they would have to iron out a statement and use that to get a date. This was somewhere around like August, or it's up top, August 10th. So from July 25th to August 10th, President Zelensky is about 2 business days late. So if the 10-day rule applies to this, where they were supposed to make a written statement, that means that if he were going to be late, he had to notify the representatives in America that he was going to be late and why he was going to be late on making this agreement, this statement, getting it over to the United States. And so, what's the problem with them ironing out a statement and use that to get a date of exactly when this document's going to be ready to present in a legal format of their cooperation into this investigation? Nothing. This is, and I highlighted the parts that are really important. On August 11th, Ambassador Volker requested a call with Sondland and Giuliani, noting he heard from Yermak that the Ukrainians were writing a statement now and will send it to us. And then there's some details in there from the, I want to say, illegally obtained phone documents of Mr. Giuliani. And below is the 2 different drafts, and where it mentions on Giuliani's side, August 13th, including those involving Burisma and the 2016 U.S. elections. Again, go back to Article 4 and read every single one of those that requires all those details to be present. So again, not a big deal, following the law. This is from the transcript between President Zelensky and President Trump. Excuse me. And I'm pretty sure you guys are familiar with this, so we're just going to skip down to the bottom of President Zelensky. And he says, I would also like to thank you for your great support in the area of defense. We are ready to continue to cooperate for the next steps Specifically, we are almost ready to buy more javelins from the United States for defense purposes. President Trump replies, I would like you to do us a favor, though, because our country has been through a lot and Ukraine knows a lot about it. I would like you to find out what happened with this whole situation with Ukraine. They say crowd strike, I guess, and you can read the rest of that. So, the first part, President Zelensky's part, is the statement of continued cooperation, which you can go back and reference to Article 3.2 and Article 5.1, 2, 4, 6, and 7. Once they agree to the stipulations of this, President Zelensky would know that he has to, by the order of this treaty, cooperate fully. So, with President Trump, he gets a statement confirming continued cooperation. President Trump proceeds to lawfully request President Zelensky's assistance. So basically, to summarize this, either the Republicans don't feel that this is a high enough or valuable enough on their list to talk about on TV and get the American public to know about, or it's part of the plan, and if you give the Dems enough rope, you know the rest of the statement. President Trump did, is, and will continue to faithfully execute his oath of office in order to protect the American people. President Zelensky is a very competent man, and he knew or knows what he agreed to. He knows what this treaty is, and the reason why I wholeheartedly believe is, one, he already said 3 times there was no quid pro quo, there was nothing else going on. And he, like President Trump, one of the biggest things that he ran on for his election, and he won his election by campaigning to drain the swamp in Ukraine, because Ukraine is one of the most corrupt places on the face of this earth. The Democrats are breaking the law, and especially breaking the agreements to this treaty, and that is sedition. Article 1.4. This treaty is intended solely for mutual legal assistance between the contracting states. The provisions of this treaty shall not give rise to a right on the part of any private party to obtain, suppress, exclude any evidence, or to impede the execution of a request. Now, what the Democrats are doing by holding this impeachment hearing and essentially forcing President Trump's hand in this is they are impeding on the execution of a request for legal assistance that this treaty gives both of our countries the right to perform and to participate in. The Democrats are not only breaking our own laws, they are breaking the laws and the agreements of this treaty. And that is a big deal. So, part of what I believe is that President Trump has a much more grand plan, and he is just letting the Dems show their colors, their very true colors, and their little devil horns, and letting them just ruin themselves so the American public no longer has any doubts about how horrible these people are for us and what lengths they will go to just to get rid of somebody that they don't like and that they don't agree with. And in the end, when this all fails, because every other one of their attempts have failed, when this one fails, I believe that justice is going to rain down upon them. Thanks for watching this. And if you made it this far, you really stuck it out with me. uh, Please share this video and try to spread the word. Um, a lot of the stuff that our representatives are saying is great. They're making great points, but this is an especially important point to be made and that people need to know about. So please just share this video. Thanks.